Welcome back. Welcome back. Lots to talk about. A lot to talk about. Let's dive straight in. Euros has obviously started last week. Interesting. I mean, yeah, obviously, hopefully you've seen the Euros video I did, the Euros videos. This home advantage is a real thing. Didn't work too well for Scotland today, but home advantage, it really is. I mean, it's I overlooked it for the most part, and then all of a sudden, when you look into it, especially England. I mean, England got all their group games at home. Potentially, if they win the group, they're going to get the last 16 game at home as well, and the semi-final and the final. And given how the opening game, Italy and Turkey, was crazy. Like, the atmosphere there was very, very, very much a home game for Italy. Turkey were extremely disadvantaged from an atmosphere point of view, given that it's, like I said, it's like a European tournament. Normally it's everyone's neutral apart from maybe one, but this time it was very much hostile atmosphere for Turkey. So that is that game went as expected. Italy won that one pretty comfortably. All the other games pretty much so far up until today have pretty much gone as you'd expect. So Wales drew. The Denmark game didn't go as expected, obviously, because Christian Eriksen had cardiac arrest, and then they chose to play the game later on that day, and obviously Denmark were not really mentally ready to play the game. So Finland actually won the game. So Denmark, who were a lot of people's dark horses, including mine, I think that might be it for them. But again, I guess it's bigger than the Euros. Luckily, Eriksen's doing better now. But yeah, I think it could be. So Denmark could be all over for them, unless they get a real galvanising effect from it. But it's highly likely they'll be quite distracted going forward. And this was the game in their group. This was the game they'd want to win against Finland, who were definitely the lowest ranked team in that group. So I think could be very difficult for them to come back from there. All the other games, Belgium looked very good. They smashed Russia. England beat Croatia. Some strange selection choices. Sterling justified his position, obviously. And the reason, he justified his selection and justified the manager's thinking he's been there and done it before. He scores goals for England. The type of winger he is not found in guys like Foden, Grealish. Sancho wasn't even in the squad, so he's one of those guys as well. But he justifies his position. Calvin Phillips was man of the match. Also was a strange one. I think a lot of people thought Bellingham might start. But Phillips went in there and ran the game, so that was quite impressive. And Trippier playing left back instead of team of the season Luke Shaw, and Chelsea's left back Chilwell. Again, if it works, it's great. If we'd lost the game 2-0 and Sterling hadn't scored, it'd have looked terrible. So it's whatever works, man. Just win the game. If you win the game, great, you're a genius. If you don't, everyone's going to say, why is Sterling playing and why is Sancho not even in the squad? So great, it's good. Beating Croatia was obviously the first step, and seeing as Scotland lost today. Given that that's England's next game, Scotland are kind of going to be in do or die mode for next week, or the next game rather. Czech Republic did look pretty good, and they've got obviously some of their best players are Premier League players as well, so we know who they are: Souček and Soufal. Should be an interesting game. Certainly the Scotland game, because it's a local derby, local rivalry. That's going to be interesting, very, very interesting. The other games, Austria looks good. The best game in terms of the highlights I watched of it anyway was Holland-Ukraine, who again you'd have thought Holland would have got an easier win there, but they got it done. 3 points, in a 3-game group stage, is just massive. That's almost half your battle done, especially when 3 go through from 4 of the 6 groups. All the numbers. Most of the time, 3 points is. Now you just need. If you get a draw in the next 2 games, you're almost definitely going to go through here. So 4 points will definitely get it done. I think there's going to be a lot of teams on 3. Well, now that Wales and Switzerland drew, that group could be quite interesting because Turkey, I don't know, I can't remember who the next game is out of the Turkey, Wales and Switzerland. But if Wales or Switzerland win a game, they're looking pretty good. But if they draw again, it's gonna look tricky. Then you might even get 2 out of that group. So a lot of it, like I said, went as expected, apart from Denmark, but we know why. We'll see. I mean, today Scotland got beat at home, which a bit surprising. Like I was just talking about home advantage, and Scotland went and lost 2-0. Goal of the tournament so far from Czech Republic. I mean, Poland again. Yeah, I guess Poland's probably the only one. That happened literally today. So based on actual form, Poland losing today after they went down to 10 men to Slovakia, that would probably be the only surprise, I think, so far in the tournament. Poland with your boy Lewandowski. I mean, losing already in that group. That is not what you want. But you got Spain playing now later on. Poland losing early doors to Slovakia. It's going to be an uphill battle from here. And Slovakia now, again, if you can steal a point here, you're qualifying. Whereas before it wasn't looking like you were going to do any of that. So that's going to be very interesting going forward. I didn't realise the Copa America is happening as well. So obviously the South American version of the Euros. It's funny because I was talking about how everyone qualifies and everyone's going through. When in Copa America, there's only 10 teams in the tournament, so 2 groups of 5, and 4 of the 5 go to the quarterfinals. So you're basically in the quarterfinal of your continental tournament without doing even less than coming third in one of these groups, let alone, it's quite funny. Obviously Messi, the story is generally around Messi and winning an international tournament finally. Argentina, again, they always have outrageous squad. Brazil have won a lot. Well, Brazil are the defending champions. Argentina have been in 4 of the last 6 finals. So they know how to lose. They know how to lose in the Copa America. The pressure will ramp up on Messi quite a lot. I feel like Ronaldo on paper. Ronaldo needed that Portugal Euro 2016 win more than Messi needs Argentina winning the Copa America. I think at this point Messi doesn't need to prove he's the GOAT to people who think he's the GOAT, or to the kind of the casuals who'll be like, yeah, cool, it's Messi, definitely. So I think there's not as much, but I think he would put a lot of pressure on himself to try and win because if you can get that, that's like step 1. Obviously the World Cup is the World Cup, but you can win your continental tournament at least once. Bearing in mind that Ronaldo did it with half the squad, and Messi's had just absolutely outrageous teams his whole career, domestic and international. So he should be winning absolutely everything he's in because he's always in the super team. So I think that's one thing, I guess, in the whole Messi-Ronaldo debate that he would like. So that's cracking on. That's literally just started. So not a lot to report on. Brazil won their game, but yeah, as you'd expect, and top 4 go through in each group. So nothing, it's all going to be just jostling for position, trying to get the weaker team in the quarterfinal, and then all of a sudden you're in the semis. You don't need to win that many games to win this, to win the Copa America that I found. So, it is what it is. NBA playoffs have been continuing, obviously. The conference semi-finals. I'll probably jump in straight in. I mean, the Suns, who beat LeBron and the Lakers, swept the Nuggets 4-0. And some of the games were close-ish. But the Suns just have really, really kicked on. I think beating LeBron, it kind of happens a lot. There's a lot of kind of underdog teams or underdog fighters or underdog athletes who win something against the GOAT or the legends or the best in their sports, and then the very next time they flop because they've used all their energy, they've reached the peak, all the momentum's been used up, and they'll lose the next one, no matter who it's against, even if it's against someone good next or if it's someone not favoured. The Suns have kind of done the opposite, and they've really galvanised. Chris Paul is playing lights out. Booker, Ayton. I mean, their team is good, very, very good. And now they've swept the Denver Nuggets, who had the MVP, who was announced last week, Nikola Jokic. So the MVP, the best player in the league this year is out the playoffs at the second round or the semi-final. So that's kind of like, out the way. The Utah Jazz, they shoot. I think they broke the NBA record for most threes attempted per game across the season. I think it's 17 they had. I think those might have been made. But either way, they just shoot threes non-stop, and you've got to score so heavily to keep up with them. They went up on the Clippers, and it was looking like, game 3, obviously they're 2-0 up on the Clippers. The first game was very close. The second game not so close. The Clippers won game 3, so it's 2-1 to the Jazz now. That game 4 is tonight, which is going to be in LA. That's ball game for them. Like, whoever wins that is, well, if the Clippers win it, then it's back on, obviously. But then the Utah Jazz have still got home advantage for the final 3 games. But if Utah win it, it's gonna be, 3-1 with home advantage is you should be winning that unless you Golden State in whenever it was against Cleveland and LeBron. But so that's kind of nicely poised. The Clippers are kind of fighting back. They've been fighting their way through this playoffs. They've not been dominant against, or they certainly weren't dominant against the Mavericks for most of that series, and they're now behind again to Utah. So we'll see how that one goes. The Sixers and the Hawks are playing out another interesting series. The Hawks won game 1, and the Sixers have won the next 2 since. Joel Embiid, coming from torn meniscus, is. I don't know. It'd be hard to. They obviously don't do a vote for MVP in the playoffs, but he's right up there. He's absolutely dominant against the Hawks. So that game 4 is happening tonight as well. Obviously the Sixers have home court advantage after this. This next game is in Atlanta as well. So hopefully they make a series of it. They go 7. But I really think the Sixers are looking very impressive. If they look, obviously this game is, again, game 4s when you're 2-1 up or down is, for obvious reasons, the big clincher, because there's going to be home court advantage for the final 3. It kind of turns into best of 5 rather, from here. So the first of the next 2 games wins. The shock here is Brooklyn. So Brooklyn were, when I say steamrolling, I mean steamrollering the Bucks. Neither game was competitive. Game 1, when James Harden got injured, was still not competitive. They still got it done at the end. It wasn't particularly close. Game 2 was a blowout, like a complete blowout. The Brooklyn Nets were just like absolutely saucing the Bucks. But then game 3, the Bucks won. Close one, right at the end. It went all the way down to the last couple of seconds. Brooklyn missed a shot in the last minute. So the Milwaukee Bucks won. Game 4 was close-ish. It was kind of going back and forth. Now their second superstar, Kyrie Irving, landed his ankle, rolled it, is out of the game. He will, unless they're doing some mad stuff with these ankle injuries over there, should probably miss the last 2 games of this, or the last 3 or 4 games, however many there are. He'll miss this series, and if he comes back, he might come back for the finals, the Western Conference Finals. But given how bad it looked, I'd be surprised if he's back soon. He could be out of the playoffs, and with James Harden already out, they're down to 1 superstar. So they started with 3, all NBA legends on their team. Now they've got 1, and now they're obviously they still do have the advantage because they've got home court from here on. I think they've got home court from here on out. So it's a first, like I said, it's the first of 2, quick 3-game series. That's now got very interesting. So Brooklyn are down to given that they've loaded their team to around these 3 superstars, 2 of them being out, that means you've got 1 superstar and you've not actually got they've got a strong, they've got a good supporting cast, but they're not all top players. So now they've got 1 superstar, Kevin Durant, who's in his first season back after tearing his Achilles. He missed the whole season. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good for Brooklyn. 2 players getting injured is pretty wild. Your 2 best players getting injured is pretty wild. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how those that particular series goes. I'm hopeful. That will be a good series from here on out. Now that it's basically Kevin Durant versus Giannis, and the Bucks supporting cast is better than the Brooklyn Nets. So we will see how it goes. The French Open finished last weekend. The women's side of it was kind of like not a lot of headlines, but understandably so, because everyone just went out early or withdrew, like Osaka. So the winner was Barbara Krejcikova, who is mainly a doubles specialist. She actually won the singles and the doubles in the same tournament. So she's playing the singles tournament and she was also playing the doubles tournament, which some people do, but not the best players. Some of the best players sometimes do it, but often, you just play one because unless you're playing tennis most of the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long the tournament goes on for. So she actually won both, which is pretty legendary by anyone's standard. I mean, Serena Williams, I think, has done it before, but people don't go off. They barely compete in both. They might compete in both, but they'll just see how it goes. A bit of a run around, like exercise based. But yeah, to win both the singles and the doubles, it's pretty elite. Men's side, we are talking about elite. We're talking about one of the two greatest of all time now. I think him and Djokovic and Federer now. I think Nadal I would put third because he's won 13 of his Grand Slams on the same surface. But Djokovic is an animal, absolute animal. He gets a lot of criticism, a lot of it rightly so, I have to be honest, because of his on-court antics and disqualifications he had in the past, and probably part of that. I mean, he was disliked before that because he's an intense competitor, and in my opinion, a lot of people don't like him because he's too intense and not a nice guy, which I personally don't agree with. Obviously, nice guy. Let's differentiate between some names. There's loads of names I'm sure you know of who aren't nice guys or nice people that you can obviously rightly so you can bring them down. But I think some people, if you're an intense competitor, I quite enjoy that because at the end of the day you're trying to win a tennis tournament. Sportsmanship, being a nice person is important. Those things he has crossed, and he deserves a lot of he deserves criticism for those things for sure. But as a tennis player, he's just different level, absolutely different level. So he came back from he came back from a set down to beat Nadal, who's only ever lost 2 tennis matches on that surface. I think he's played, like I said before, 16 tournaments. He's lost two games, and one of them was to Djokovic before, and the other one was to Robin Soderling in 2009. So he's literally lost to one other guy than Djokovic in his whole career at that tournament. Like, it's insane. But early doors, I mean, Nadal was 5-0 up in the first set. So looking at that, you think, okay, cool, this could be business as usual. And then Djokovic just came back massively. And obviously, even at the French Open, you're going to get Nadal favourite crowds. It's like Wimbledon and, Federer and Murray at Wimbledon, to be fair. But yeah, very, very not home support, but strong support for Nadal on thingy, actively booing or not really cheering for Djokovic. So Djokovic fought back and beat Nadal in an all-time class. The standard of tennis was insane. I mean, they both looked like Nadal out there. I mean, people give, obviously rightly so, because he's won 13, but Djokovic beating Nadal in his own court, essentially, is absolutely insane, given that they're the same kind of age. I mean, obviously, Nadal's had a lot of wear, on his body. Djokovic is athletically probably the greatest of all time in terms of athletes who play tennis. Like, he's an absolute machine, cardio-wise, athletically, agility-wise, he's everywhere for the whole 5 sets, and he's had so many comebacks in Grand Slam tournament, in the big games, like when the lights are brightest, like semi-finals, finals, US Open, Wimbledon, Australian Open, 5-set marathons against all the best tennis players in the world in their prime at year upon year. So yeah, he came back and beat Nadal. So after that, we're thinking, he should probably, not walk the final, because Stefanos Tsitsipas of Greece is young, well, obviously a lot younger, over 10 years younger, but he's one of the best younger players in the world at the minute, who beat Alexander Zverev in 5 sets. So he was obviously looking like a close-ish game on paper, because obviously Tsitsipas is one of the best in the world at the minute, but Djokovic has just beaten Nadal, and he's Djokovic. So he was 2 sets down. So Djokovic was 2 sets down in the final against Tsitsipas on Sunday. He was looking a little bit out of sorts. He changed his. This didn't matter, obviously, but it's funny to say. He changed his shirt from white to red, and then he took over from there. Won 6-3, 6-2, 6-4. Again, there was a lot of boos / jeer / sort of disdain from the crowd. But I think eventually they're like, okay, look, man, what can we do at this point if we've given him a hard time and now he still managed to win. So Djokovic is now one behind Federer and Nadal in the all-time list. He's on 19 now, and he's going to win as many as he wants. I mean, there's been the last 2 years, obviously COVID affected. There's been 4 Grand Slam finals. They didn't have, I think it was the US Open they didn't hold last year. No, Wimbledon they didn't hold last year. He won the Australian Open. There wasn't Wimbledon, obviously. He got disqualified from the US Open in a game he was going to walk anyway. This is obviously something he does deserve criticism for, because he hit a ball at a line judge. So he got disqualified on the spot. That tournament he probably would have won. And now he's obviously won both Grand Slams this year, the Australian Open, the French. So he's the only one in the Open era to win all of them twice. So no one has won all the Grand Slams twice. So again, the accolades just keep coming. I mean, we're not done with Djokovic. He's going to keep. He's got another. What's he now? 34. As long as he wants. It depends on how good the next crop are. So Tsitsipas, Zverev, Medvedev, and some other younger guys. How good these guys are, if they can really get to the level where Dominic Thiem, where they get to the level where they believe they can beat Djokovic. Because at this point, it's like facing prime Federer, where you're thinking, let me see if I can get up 2 sets and then hang on. No one's going into this. No one's going up against Djokovic, and it is only Djokovic in the world at the minute. Thinking, okay, I can have a go here. I think Nadal, just because of the physicality, I think he's not what he was, whereas Djokovic is better than he ever was right now. And obviously Federer is 39. He's picking and choosing his tournaments. He'll be good at Wimbledon. Federer will be good at Wimbledon. But Djokovic is an absolute animal in every sense of the word. So yeah, we'll see. Wimbledon's coming up, so we'll see how that go. Well, it might be coming up. Don't know after the announcement today. I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, so we'll see how that all transpires. UFC 263. Luckily for us, for all of us, and for my prediction, my kind of semi-prediction, it delivered big time. Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz was a clinic, kind of. Diaz was clowning the whole fight. It was quite annoying, really, when you've seen him have an all-time classic with Conor McGregor and real battling encounter with Masvidal, and now he's kind of clowning with Leon Edwards. But listen, if you're Leon Edwards, you're number 3. You're on a 10-fight winning streak, which is the 3rd all-time behind Usman and GSP at that division. If you're Leon Edwards, you're like, cool. If you want to clown, let me score you and look good. The important thing is he looked good. He looked very good until the last minute of the last round, where Diaz clips him. He Stockton slaps him. It's kind of the same kind of punch, the same punch that Usman knocked Masvidal out with a month ago. Diaz set it up, set the left up with a Stockton slap. So he literally slapped him, and then left came straight across, wobbled, had Leon Edwards on the moon. Didn't know where he was or what day it was, and then Leon Edwards held on for literally like getting out, ducking some punches. Like, it was pandemonium. So that was extremely close. My boy Davison Figueiredo lost the flyweight title to Brandon Moreno. I mean, Moreno, I had Moreno winning the first fight. It was a draw because Figueiredo got a point taken off for a low strike. But I had Moreno winning that first fight, even with the point. But this time it wasn't really that close. Moreno looked really good throughout, and then choked out Figueiredo, who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So outstanding. He's looking good. Figueiredo's weight cut looked a bit strange. I think Moreno said it, and it was a good point. I think Figueiredo spent too much time trying to be the bad guy in this little rivalry and trying to play it up a little bit more, which could be true, because Moreno's not really a guy, an antagonistic kind of guy. So it was a bit. I did kind of think, but again, I think that was more of a disrespect thing. Figueiredo was kind of like, who's this guy who got cut by the UFC 3 years ago? So Moreno, new champ. There is not a new champ in the middleweight division because Israel Adesanya is, again, not quite like Djokovic, but in terms of performances last weekend, just an absolute clinic. 5-0 whitewash of Vettori. Adesanya now also has the greatest walk-in or walk-out visual performance bit in UFC that I've ever seen. Like, he came out in this kind of hat and mask combo. He looked comfortable, looked confident, and just destroyed. I mean, he put on a clinic. He didn't destroy him. He put on a clinic, a striking clinic, evasion clinic. He just looked really good. He came close. Vettori came close. He had Adesanya in a choke, but Adesanya flipped it, and then from then it was just absolute downhill. There was no way Vettori was getting back in that. So Adesanya is a beast. If we didn't know already, I mean, after a fight like the Jan Blachowicz fight in March, you kind of, when someone loses, you have to kind of evaluate. You be like, okay, where are we at with this guy? And Blachowicz didn't put on a show to beat Adesanya, but Adesanya looked sloppy. Definitely wasn't as quick, wasn't as loose, wasn't as comfortable. But this time he's basically put himself back exactly where he was before, and now he can kind of set about building a legacy at middleweight, which is where I think he should stay for now. Anyway, I mean, listen, he's 31, so. They haven't got forever to mess around there, because I know light heavyweight, the age is also a factor at light heavyweight. Heavyweight, not so much, but you can't be messing around for too long. But we've got a couple of years. Adesanya's next fight hopefully is going to be Whittaker rematch, which is going to be another legendary one. And then we'll kind of see, because he's kind of beaten all the decent guys at that weight class now. If he can beat Whittaker again, it's kind of, he probably will start looking back up at light heavyweight, because there's not a lot of big fights at middleweight for Adesanya, I don't think. But again, that was extremely impressive performance. Him and Djokovic are definitely my standouts for last week. So jumping forward to this week, obviously Euros is on every day. Spain are on tonight. England playing Scotland on Friday. France, Germany is going to be tomorrow as well. So that's going to be the first indication of are France the real deal. If they beat Germany, then you could probably put them down for a long run in the tournament. But yeah, so obviously Euros is going to be continuing alongside everything else. Weekend, you've got the French Grand Prix. It's back, Formula 1. Obviously, Verstappen still holds the lead in the drivers by 4 points. Red Bull lead Mercedes by 26. Which is a decent little gap, because I mean, you have to really start outscoring here. Bottas, luckily, so France is a track. They've only had 2 Grand Prix there recently. So they had it back in the day, and then it kind of stopped, I think, early 2000s. And then they've resurrected the track in 2018. Hamilton won a procession that year. And then he also, literally, in 2019, qualified on pole. Mercedes had a huge gap that year. So I think they're a second clear of everyone else. So this time it's not going to be that. So things could be quite different. But at the last 2 times they've been at this the race, they didn't do it in 2020, obviously. Mercedes absolutely dominated. So this is going to be one of those key races for both teams, for both championships, to see where Red Bull really are. If Red Bull dominate, if this is one of the early real championship indicators about who's where. So this one is going to be, Spain was probably the first one. This is like a real one, because Mercedes absolutely dominated every time they go here, and Red Bull have never looked good here. So if Red Bull dominate, Red Bull are strong favourites for both titles from here. If they win, we'll see how they won. But if Mercedes can win this, then I think it's going to kind of go on how it was pre-Monaco. So before these 2 street races that have kind of sent everything a bit like skew with. I think, yeah, before that, it was looking like Mercedes were going to just get enough wins and win both titles. Now, obviously after these 2 street races, especially after last week, having DNFs and spin-offs and stuff, this is going to be one, okay, cool, let's see where we're at. And then we've got a double in Austria again, where, well, Red Bull are good there, but Hamilton was great there last time. So in 2020, Mercedes won both. Bottas won 1, Hamilton won 1. So we will see how that kind of goes. I expect Mercedes to be back. To be fair, I think Mercedes and Hamilton are gonna do better this time because they're back on a real circuit now. I think once you put that Mercedes on a racetrack, I think it is better than Red Bull. But Red Bull are good at some of these really high downforce circuits. So it's gonna be a fun race. It's gonna be a very, very fun race. Looking forward to that one. And then the US Open in golf is happening. Bryson DeChambeau is the champ. It's at Torrey Pines, which the last time they were there was 2008. Tiger Woods' legendary US Open win on one leg. So his leg break and ACL, and he beat Rocco Mide in a playoff that time. John Rahm is cleared. He's free. He's out the gates of that COVID test he had before. Dustin Johnson was playing well for 3 rounds on the weekend. So they had a smaller tournament, not a small tournament, but not a lot of people went to it. The top guys. John Rahm was in there. Brooks Koepka missed a cut, which is interesting, but that doesn't tend to matter because Brooks Koepka, especially in the US Open, so the US Open and the USPGA, so the last one we had and this one, Brooks Koepka's won 2 consecutive in each of them. So they're the ones he really dominates in. The Masters and the actual British Open, not so much. So these are the ones he really likes. The US-based majors are the ones he really likes. So Brooks Koepka in a major, he has to go in there. Just put him up at the favourites thing, no matter. And even if he missed the cut last week, which he did, it doesn't matter. Put him up as second favourite alongside John Rahm, who last time he was playing was the best player in the world form-wise. So those 2 are doing quite well. Dustin Johnson, we'll see. He did okay. In the end, I think he fought with a bit, but early on he was doing very well. He's co-leader through 2 rounds, so he's kind of back. Colin Morikawa, again, he's okay. Patrick Cantlay obviously won the last tournament, the last decent tournament we had 2 weeks ago, so he's in a bit of form. Spieth, kind of been okay, and then you got the guys like Thomas and Schauffele and Rory who aren't in any form at all. But they're good players, so you never know. They could pull something out the bag. But I think John Rahm, if he's picked up where he's left off, he could be in good shape. And obviously Cantlay, I do like. And obviously I've got if it's a golf tournament, if it's a major golf tournament, I've got to mention Patrick Reed. It's like standard for me. From a competitive point of view. But I think Brooks Koepka, even though he missed the cut, he is Mr. Major. So we'll see how that one goes, guys and girls. Again, thank you, really appreciate it. So the last couple of videos have been doing quite well. The viewership and the kind of the analytics behind them are quite good. So again, I'll probably do more breakdowns of that nature, get some more editing, some more graphics and whatnot that everyone likes. So yeah, look, like it. If you do, share it, drop it on your stories and I'll repost them. And yeah, I'll see you very soon.